Hi, everyone. Good to see you after this summer of having like a bit of a, I would say small breakdown, but like in AI, we don't really have that, Martin, I would say. So it's been a pretty hectic summer. We've been working on it, but we're happy to be here. This is the first webinar of the season. So then again, hello, everybody. As always, I'm here with Martin LeBlanc, our CXO here at Magnific, and myself, Sofia, Head of Social and Community here at Magnific. So it's the first webinar of the season, and it's with a pretty good reason, I'd say, because we've been building things like crazy for this past summer. And today we're going to be covering the latest and more, I would say, definitely interesting updates that we've been shipping, plus the newest one, which was launched, like I would say 2 hours ago. And we're pretty excited about it, which is the Magnific desktop app, which is like a super powered kind of Magnific. So it's pretty amazing. So yeah, we're gonna go through the whole thing. We're gonna do a lot of live demo. We're gonna be showing you how to make the most out of it. So Martin, let's go.
Yeah. Let's just go to the, we prepared some slides just to take you through some overview before we get into the live demo. So maybe you want to go over this first, Sofia?
Yeah, we're going to be covering first things first. So we're going to be talking about our new launch, which would be the desktop app that you can get from Mac, from Windows as well. And it's really like a super powered version of the experience that you can get out of the browser. So we're going to go in depth through that, and you're going to see that it's like, I'd love to think of the app as something that has like a lot of Easter eggs throughout the whole thing. You know, it's like you can really make a lot of things out of it, and it's really improving your experience, no? We've had a lot of video model updates this past summer. Some of them are pretty amazing. Some of them are great at specific things. So it's a really exciting time to go ahead and see like how they perform, how you can make the most out of it, out of each, depending on what you're building or what you're doing. 3D motion, which I would say is pretty popular amongst all of you guys, because like our 3D tools are like having people like really onto the conversation, and like we have some really, really nice features that I don't think you're even imagining that are out there. So it's pretty cool. We've got other, which is always mysterious, and it's always an amazing bucket to put like the rest of the little things that are out there. And then questions, answers, and we'll be sharing more insights and maybe even some goodies and things that are coming as well.
Yeah, great. Before we go into item number 1, please post questions in the chat. We have easy behind the scenes. You will look through the questions, and they will pop up along the way. And I think the best for us all is to answer the questions. We have the section in the end where we can go through question and answers, but also just post them along the way so we can talk about them when we are on the specific topic. But let's get into item number 1. We're super excited about this one. The team has been working really hard for several months on this update, and we think it's pretty great. So we're just going to kick off with this short video first.
Your best work is bigger than a browser. You're in the zone. Everything flows. Then, friction. Uploads, downloads, waiting. Your ideas got lost while the bar filled up. So we took Magnific out of the browser and put it on your desktop. Now your files and folders sync seamlessly. You have shortcuts, tabs, notifications, everything organized to keep you in the zone. Remove the friction with Magnific Desktop.
I have to say that I'm in love with the video. Like, I love how it's like a really powerful way to say, like, we're there to remove the friction. It's like, you're the creative, you have everything that's going to be happening, and we just want to make the experience so much more smoother. So like, I really love it.
Yeah, so basically, the as Sofia is saying, like, it's about removing the friction. The foundation for making the app here was really to make sure that, you guys, the creatives, when you're using AI to create campaigns, film, whatever you're doing, it's really to keep you in that creative flow and try to minimize clicks, manual tasks, and so on. And the desktop app is really just like one step in this direction, and the first step. We're going to do a lot more, keep building on this new platform. But today we're going to see some of the new things that you can do, which are, there's a few different highlights I want to bring up, which is some of the stuff that the app can already do. One thing I think this one is probably one of the strongest features, which is basically that whenever you're working in Magnific, instead of having to download, upload, and so on, you can now synchronize folders. So you can decide where does your downloads land, first of all, so they don't just end up in a generic downloads folder. You can also choose to have, when you're working with projects and folders, you can decide where those specific folders and projects are synced on your desktop. So that's really something that just saves you a lot of clicks. The other thing is a bunch of new shortcuts. So the shortcut works in a way that normally in the browser, you have fewer options for shortcuts because you also have the default shortcuts for the browser. When we're working in an app, we have more options. So we're going to put in a lot more shortcuts where you can jump to specific tools. One of my favorite ones is actually just like Command O or Control O, which opens up the file on your computer. But then I'll show you in a minute that you now get some other options for very quickly doing actions with files on your computer.
Yeah,
so it saves you a lot of clicks.
It's sometimes with like these type of actions, it's like you're just opening your Spotlight, for example, in Mac, and you're just typing upscale. And then
you can do that also, yes.
Selecting a file. So it feels like you're it's like your whole computer is running Magnific through it. It's like you don't even have to be in the window or whatever, no? So yeah,
one of the benefits of having things as a desktop app is that we can do this operating system level integration, as you're saying, that we can, for example, integrate with Finder and so on. So that's basically like things that can all save us a lot of clicks. And then, of course, it's also like it's a real workspace, meaning that you will have a dock icon. So you have like Magnific just one click away. You don't have to go to a browser, write magnific.com to get into the app. And one thing I also like is that I also like to have, often I'm using my browser for something else while I'm also using Magnific. And now it's two different apps. So I can also sit in my operating system, and then I can simply like Command Tab and then flip between my my browser and then also Magnific. So that also just saves a lot of clicks to do it that way. And then finally, we also have the other two last ones here. We have sessions in the app, so you can have a long list of tabs open with everything you're doing in a project, and then you can close the app. When you open the app, it will restore everything. So you can basically have everything in the app restored if you reboot your computer or come back to it later.
That is massive. Like, I feel like I'm a very chaotic person. So I feel like when I have 17 tabs with different spaces, and then I have a project, and then I have like somebody's editing, like something is being edited, whatever. And then I remember the first time that I used the desktop app and it opened and everything was there. It was like, oh, yes, like I really love that it's keeping like that memory. And I know that all Magnific tabs are there and it's like not in 17 browsers. So yeah, the memory thing is like, I think everybody's going to be in love with that.
And then the last item is notifications. So right now we have, I'm going to show it to you how it's working. It's basically giving you notifications, but you have to sort of like opt in before it happens. But it's also really great, especially if you're working with video. Many video generators, they can take several minutes to finish. So you can basically leave the tab or leave the app completely, and then you'll get notified when it's done. So that's also really handy for your workflow. So as you can see, a lot of these features, they are not very fancy, but they're definitely very useful, especially if you are, a daily user and a heavy user of generative AI. Great. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to switch to doing a live demo so you can see how the app works. I'm just going to arrange my windows a bit.
Yes. Everybody, be aware that you know what happens with live demos. We know we're everybody's getting on the desktop app right now and you're testing things. The chances that we are the ones who get the thing that doesn't work, it's us. So beware that you're not going to get it on your desktop app. And by the way, I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces in the chat. I'm super happy. I'm seeing a lot of you guys from our community. I'm seeing Metrics Mules. I'm seeing Christopher's. I'm seeing a lot of happy names. I'm seeing a lot of people from all over the place, all over the world. So yeah, super excited to have you all guys here.
It's great. Good to have you guys. All right, so I'm gonna go here and just open the app. So I have the app down here in my dock. So, and actually I'm just gonna close it completely. So I'm gonna open it. Whenever it's opening, it's you can see here it's now restoring my tabs as we talked about already here. It's also doing a check whether we have any updates. So once you open or close the app and open it again, it's also going to check whether there is an update for the app. So we're probably going to update the app. My guess is that at least daily we're going to have like new versions coming out. But now this one is up to date, so no problem. But you're going to see updates coming out quite frequently. Let's see. So let's see. The first thing I wanted to show you just tabs. So the tabs work a bit like the browser. One thing that is nice about this design, compared to, for example, let's say a browser window. You can see here if I have a browser window, you have actually a lot more pixels that are going, into the URL. You might even have like a bookmark bar and so on. When you're using the app, it's really optimized. We try to have as much space as possible for the actual, working area. So you can see here, if I'm opening the app like full screen, I'm actually getting like a huge area that I can work in, and everything is dedicated, to Magnific here. And just a shortcut here, for example, Command Tab is going to tab you through everything that you can do. All the tabs here, you can go back and forth super fast. So those tabs are really great to have. Let me just see what else we need. Yeah, of course, close the app, open it again, and they're going to be there still. Let's go into something here that is, I also really like here. If you click Command, comma, or you choose the preferences, we have a window here that gives you a bunch of options. So some of the things that you can do here that is different from if you're using Magnific from Chrome or a web browser, you can set a default download folder. So instead of everything just ending up in downloads, you can actually change it to being, for example, here I set it up to be downloads and then /Magnific. So now I know every time I'm downloading something from Magnific, it's going to end up in that folder. There's also a few options here. You have dark light mode. You can override that, of course. In tabs and links, there's a really nice one here, which is show project name in tabs. So if you're using projects, instead of having tabs saying image generator, upscaler, and so on, you can actually see which project you're working on. So if you're working on multiple projects, you can just have different tabs for those projects. And then you can see the name in the tab. So that's a nice one. There is also a bunch of shortcuts here. So that's an overview of all the different shortcuts. It's not customizable yet, but you can see here everything that can be done. So it's a good one. Let me try showing you just one of my favorites here. So I'm going to use Command O. And if I pick, for example, I just need to find a picture here. So if I choose a picture from my computer, it's now going to ask me what I want to do with it. And then I can very quickly just say, upscale this, and then I'm straight into the upscaler. So a lot of nice options here. So that was one file. If I choose several files, it's going to give me an option for bulk operations. For example, let's say putting them into a folder in a project. So I'm going to choose this folder.
That's really cool. We just share in the chat as well. You can see the Magnific account share URL when we have all the shortcuts, all the commands and everything right there. So you can go through the full list, see everything that you can do with the shortcuts, as Martin was mentioning. Because there's like a lot of things, and I can imagine only that it's going to be growing in the coming months. So it's like
nice. Yeah,
really nice.
And the last option here in preferences is the sync option. So this one is the one that is like really powerful. So let's say we're working on a project and I want to synchronize a folder. So let's try just opening my desktop here. So let's see. So I'm just going to create a folder called Magnific on my desktop and open that. So now in here, I want to synchronize my project files, and I go into the app, and then I choose, let's say I'm working on this desktop video, and I want to synchronize this one called Sync Example. And I'm going to choose my desktop, and then the Magnific folder. And now you can see it's going to be adding the project name and then the folder name. And then when I hit sync, it's now creating the folder, and then it's putting in the files in there.
This is really nice.
Yeah, it is.
Really, really cool.
And let's see. So if whenever the app is syncing, there you can see here there's a little icon, little cloud icon. If you ever click that one, also it's going to take you to the synchronization settings directly. So you can do that very fast. You can also choose to synchronize a file by going into your projects, and then from the menu to the left, you can also choose to say, click the little 3 dots here, and then there's also an option here to go to sync, and then you say sync with this computer, and then it's going to be making it ready to set that up, and then we can sync that one also. Just to give you an idea also how fast it is, we can just try moving a file. So I'm just going to go picking a file, an image. Let's see. Let's pick an image. So I'm taking this one, and then I'm dropping it into the sync example. And there it is. So that took about a few seconds, right? So yeah, almost instant, right? So it's super, super snappy.
Yeah, it's really cool because I saw some questions about how, sometimes getting automated downloads is like super interesting for them. And this is really it. Like if you're working on a specific project, or even as Martin was sharing, a subfolder of a project, and you synchronize that, whatever is happening there is already going to be in your desktop. No? So
yeah.
Like it's as fast as lightning. So.
And what I really like about this this feature, we were already using it for a few projects. What we did was basically we didn't want to synchronize everything that was like, you don't want to synchronize every generation. But what we did was that, for example, here we synchronized favorites. So whenever we were working on something, we needed to, for example, download them so we could, edit the video. We then just dragged the files into favorites, and then we knew that the favorites were being synchronized. So there's also like, there are many options to also control. So you don't synchronize everything. You just synchronize what you need. There's one feature here, so that is like you can very quickly, let's say you start synchronizing video, you can very quickly fill up your computer with the video files. So you don't want to do that. You can actually go in here in settings. So for each of the folders, you can click settings, and then you can, for example, disable. Let's say you don't want video at all. You can actually remove that. You can also choose to say, I only want to download files that are less than 10 megabyte or 200 megabyte or some custom amount. You can also choose to say, I don't want my a synchronized folder to ever be more than 5 gigabytes, right? So instead of like, your computer, running out of space, you can actually just put these like caps in there, and it's going to show you like a red error if you hit the limit. But it's nicer to get that error than having, problems with your computer because you filled it up with files. There's one just a limitation right now with the synchronization. It's only working from the app and to your computer. It's not working the other way around. Something we're working on, but it needs a bit more work before we are going to release that. So for now, it's a one-way direction of synchronization to your computer.
But it's really useful, and I love that how we were speaking a bit before about how the small things, like the things that remove the friction out of the processes, are the ones that add a lot of value in the day-to-day work. And just something like having a small cap in a folder, people are downloading crazy amounts of seedings, 2.5 videos and so on. So it's like, it's better to keep an eye out on that. So if you know that there's already a limit that you can even customize, or the type of files that you're getting, like it's really meant to be like something that it's taking out the mental load out of working with Magnific when you're doing it through the desktop.
And removing also just like the amount of clicks you need to click. For example, if you are generating video, you often generate maybe 4 or 5 versions of this with the same prompt, and then you want to quickly preview them. And that is just easier when if you run it from your local folder. I think we have some questions from the chat here. Yes. There's one calling saying, is it possible to batch select images and move them between projects? I cannot seem to be able to do that. And yes, that is possible. I can just show you. You can basically select multiple files like this, and then you can say move down in this menu, and then you can move them into whatever folder you want. I believe that there's also a drag and drop option. Yeah, you can also drag and drop. So 2 ways to do that. Select multiple files and hit move, or select multiple files and then drag them.
We also got some questions about using desktop app and Magnific with Claude, and we do have like a massive MCP out there as well for everybody who I'm sure are making the most out of it.
Yeah, and you can control the app from Claude as the same way as you can control web browser. So it is actually possible. Especially one thing I know that a lot of people are using Claude for is if you're using Spaces, if you want to build like a lot of connections and so on, you can actually have Claude do that in Spaces, and that also works in the app.
Yeah, I have found that working with the native agent that we have in Magnific and Spaces, it's massive really from having like a full-on complex process with the nodes and everything built up just by typing a prompt of maybe I want X amount of generations in whatever languages or whatever. No? So it's really helpful, like agentic behavior in this sense, like whether if it's Claude or our agent, it's really powerful when you mix it with Spaces.
And we have a question here also from, there's a question about like if the app supports Spaces, and that also works perfectly. There should be like no issues with using Spaces also. You can just open it here. So
and also it's very helpful because of what you mentioned, because you can have the name of the project as well as like the color tab of each project. You can have like a bunch of spaces from different projects, and now it's going to be much easier to walk through the tabs rather than when you're doing it in a browser. So it's even like a boosted experience there as well.
Yeah, that's true. So let's try moving on. There's one more question here. Is there an option to synchronize with cloud drives? I'm not sure if you're referring to like a specific provider, but there we have this option here. I'm just going to close this one, get back to the desktop app project. Here we are. If you go in here, you can also find in the sync menu, there's also options for connecting for now with the Google Drive. So that is one option for syncing with cloud also.
And of course, you can all guys expect that everything that we're showing today is because we just launched the app today, right now, like 2 hours ago. So yeah, imagine how it's going to be implemented in like how it's going to be growing in the coming months. And if there's anything that you want to share with us in the chat, like, I'm really missing X feature or whatever, or this type of connector, or if I'm using X operating system, I would love to also know whether the app is available right there. Feel free to let us in the comments. I will run them through our team.
So there are 2 more things we want to show you. One is, so this one is Mac specific. We know that a lot of you are actually using Mac, so I think this is at least interesting for a bunch of you. And it's basically this integration with the app it's called Shortcuts. So it's not the same as like a shortcut. The app is called Shortcuts. And Shortcuts is a way for you to create basically a little app that can do something. So for example, here, let's say if I want to create like a new shortcut on Mac here, I can then search for what are the options that are coming from the Magnific app. And you can see all these different actions can be performed from Shortcuts. So there are create folder, upscale image, upscale video, generate image, and so on. So you have basically a lot of the core functionality can be run directly from this shortcut option. Let me show you how that actually works. So, for example, here I have done just a very simple one where I'm using 2 different actions from the Magnific app. One is to generate, and then there's a variable, just prompt, and then I'm asking it to use Minimax and landscape format, 5 seconds, and then when it's done, it needs to move the file to the project called desktop video and a folder. So I've set this up, and then what I can do now is that I can right-click this one, and then I can say add to doc. You can make that workflow as complex as you want. This is a pretty simple one, just 2 actions. I can then move it to the doc, and I can also give it like an icon and everything. And then down here in my doc, I now have this icon here, which is sort of like just an app. And then it will, if I click it, it will now, because I asked it to have the prompt as the input, I can now say, let's just say test here. Let's just open the assets in the background. So when I hit done here, you can see it's sending that command directly to the Magnific app, and now it's generating a video using test as the prompt for Minimax and so on. It's going to create that. When the video is done, it's going to move it into the folder that I specified. So if you have some actions, let's say you're doing, you want to have something where it's like, bulk upscale video or whatever, you can then create a shortcut for that. And then from Finder, you can then run those. There's also some options here. If you select multiple files, you can also create these, let's say, quick actions. So you can also create different options that will be available in this menu in Finder. So
By
that's
the
just...
way, if everybody in the chat is like fascinated about what Martin is showing, and you'd love for us to kind of be sharing some more complex shortcuts or things like that, that we're up for the challenge. Like, I know that the potential of the type of shortcut you can build out of this is what he mentioned. No, maybe if you have a workflow which is like, I'm always using like this type of prompt and I'm running it through this Nano Banana 2 1K, for example, and then I'm doing video. Like, you can now do that whole workflow with a click on your dock or your deck, sorry, and then it will run out. No, so like the possibilities there when you have a specific flows of things that you're very repeatedly doing in Magnific are just literally narrowed down to one click. So if you're interested, guys, in seeing more content around that, like, do let us know in the chat heavily, because we'll go crazy on our socials with that.
Great. And the last thing I want to show you is this is sort of like, something where we are just, dipping our toes into what's possible with the app. Obviously, when you have an app that is running locally, there are some things that you can then run locally, not in the cloud. So we are starting to bundle, different technologies that are coming with the app. The first one is actually like for video processing. So instead of having video processing happening, on servers, you can actually do that locally and then speed up things. The first thing here, and you're also gonna not burn credits whenever you're doing that action. So that's really a nice benefit. And let me show you one example here. So, for example, CDance 2.5 allows us to provide additional video formats. So if you go here to the download menu, you can now see that there are some other formats here. You have, for example, and this is great for professionals, you now have an option for downloading the video, not in normal 8-bit, but you can get it to 10-bit, which means you will get significantly more colors. You will have basically whenever a video would normally hit a point where everything just turns white, let's say you have a video of a bright light and so on, you have more colors now, so you can basically have the colors range more colors here. So this is great for professionals if you want to do a lot of color grading and so on. When I'm running this, you can then see it's now running, conversion is running on your device. So now it's using the local GPU to convert this video.
And also, this is only a desktop app feature. Like, if you're having the same experience in web, you will see like a small pop-up that is telling you that if you want to run this conversion, you have to get the app download and install a bit of like a preview that will run at first. So it's really like one of those small Easter eggs that now you can get like your video up in a higher quality when you're working with the desktop app. So that's pretty nice.
And in the settings, you will see the first time you're using any of these features, it will start downloading whatever it's needing. So it's not coming bundled by default, but if let's say you need some of these video conversion tools, it will then also download them, and then you can see in settings here which ones have been downloaded. You can also remove them again if you don't want to have that on your hard drive. But you're going to see a lot more things, technologies being bundled with the app, so things will also be able to run locally, which speeds things up, gives you more flexibility. There can also be some legal reasons to do that, and then you're not burning credits. So that's going to be something we're going to explore a lot more. Great. Okay, I think we need to move back to the slides now.
Yeah, we had a little few questions about desktop as well. One was about if you can be logged into one account on web and then be on another account in desktop app, and the answer is yes. Yeah. You can have like different accounts running there, so that's really cool. And then if it can be installed on iPad, and I think that as far as I know right now, it's just desktop running purely on desktop. Yeah, but it's definitely it's good feedback for the next update, definitely. So we'll
we
keep
have an
it-
iPhone app. We don't have an iPad app.
Yes, exactly. We need to cover in between. We need to have them all devices.
Yeah.
Cool. So we still have a lot of things to share, right? So like
Yep.
desktop app is like crazy. Like we could be here hours going through like everything, every little tweak, building shortcuts and whatever. So yeah, you're more than welcome, guys, to go ahead and give it a shot. Do let us know in social, comment on our launch thread, share how the experience is going. And then you can head over to magnific.com/desktop and get your desktop app right there. The team will be sharing it in the chats of whatever you're watching this webinar right now or in a few minutes. And give us your feedback. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, Easy, can you go back to the slides?
I think those are your slides, maybe, that you need to like.
Yeah, let me just check. I'm just gonna. There we go. Good.
Okay.
All right, I'm back on the slides. Great. So the last thing about the app, in the top, there's going to be a huge send feedback button, and we really encourage people to just be very generous with feedbacks, ideas, suggestions, bugs, anything. Whenever you're using the feedback option in the app, it's going to send a lot of information to the developers about why did that bug happen and so on. So it's a way easier for us to debug whenever you're sending feedback, and so just use it in the app instead of pinging us via email and so on. It's going to hit the same people anyway, but a lot faster and a lot more effective this way. Great. All right. Yeah.
Video models.
Next topic. Yeah, we have a few really nice video models, and of course, we're going to start with probably the most popular one, which is Seedance 2.5. For those of you who don't know it, it's basically, I think the most, on Magnific, the most popular video model was 2.0, and now it's a nice upgrade with 2.5. And one of the things that has been upgraded is the number of references that you can now do. So you can actually do some very complex scenes. And to test this, we tried pushing it basically like to the limit, just really use everything we could in terms of additional references. For example, here in this case, we wanted to create a shot where a person, or at least see like a first person view going through like a museum. And then we wanted all these different statues to be appearing in that video. And just pushing it to the limit. You can see the result here.
Yeah, it's massive when you think about how a few months ago, like having 20-ish references in a video would have gone terribly wrong. Like it wouldn't have been like looking like them, It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so the amount of complexity that Seedance 2.5 can handle is really impressive for sure. So that's one of the main things that are coming. There's also a few other things that you can see more in, I would say, like the image quality. So we have just a quick benchmark done 2.5 versus 2.0, and you can sort of like see the difference between those two scenes. So we used exactly the same prompt and same reference images, created two videos and put them side by side. So one of the things that you'll notice is that with 2.5, you get a more, I would say, like a more cinematic look to it. It's a little bit like, you can see there's that seems to be by default often a bit more color grading, a bit more lively colors. You can see, for example, here the light from outside is more yellow and so on. So it seems like 2.5 maybe comes a little bit more opinionated and leaning a little bit more into this kind of like very cinematic look.
Yeah, I would say it's even a bit more texture even, it's like it's getting a bit of like this cinematic, not even grady, but like the type of light that you get in cinema,
Yes.
Like it's a bit dense. It's really cool.
Definitely. We also saw like for this video we showed in the beginning, the desktop video, promotion video, we had this character which was a guy with a beard, and when we were testing also 2.0 with 2.5, those details in the beard and hair and so on came out way more detailed with 2.5. So there's definitely like they also improved that kind of like the human, the details, the realism of human faces. This is another example, also like where we benchmark, for example, multi-shot. So one of the great things about CDance is that it can handle multi-shot. So you ask basically in the prompt, you can simply say multi-shot, or you can also specify how you want the camera to change during one generation. And here you can actually see how with the same prompt, also it's treating how it's handling this kind of multi-shot slightly differently, where again, we are seeing more, I would say, cinematic look in CDance 2.5, the one to the right here. You can see the colors also a bit more, maybe more realistic looking. And then just a quick tip. This is just like a really nice tip. Whenever you're using this kind of like multi-shot approach, you don't actually need always to use the specific shots you're getting. You can also generate a video, and then you can grab some frames from it, and then generate just like single shots from that. But when you're doing this way, you're basically using behind the scene, you're using their C3 models as an image generator, and you can get like a lot of consistency in creating. For example, say you want to create some storyboarding, you can actually generate videos, grab the frames, and then create your storyboard from that. So it's just a little tip from when we're using CDance internally. And here's a benchmark of a also new model, Minimax Halo 3.0. That one is a really strong one also. And here's same prompt and same reference images, and just a side-by-side comparison of the output.
It's really interesting here, because like each has like its own little thing, you know, like they're there in that cinematic level. Sometimes it just goes down to like a matter of like personal taste, I would say. No, maybe somebody had in mind a bit more like the Minimax one. Like I feel like I'm more aligned with what the Minimax deliver in this case, but like both are like outstanding quality.
Now these videos are like smaller, so there might also be some details and so on, but Minimax here definitely delivered a really strong competitor to the CDance model for sure. So we have a benchmark in terms of like more of the features, but definitely I think there's like we had like some conclusions at least. We had some issues where some of the fine details, especially on faces, got lost on Minimax, where CDance maybe is stronger on those. But what you'll see is also, for example, here's like also one tree, also really strong from Alibaba. Amazing model also. Again, can also do multi-shot. So really great for filmmaking.
Yeah, the camera movements are super fluid there as well with 1.3.
Yeah.
Really nice.
We have this overview here. There's a lot of details, but I just want to highlight a few of them. And I think Easy is going to remove our faces. There we go. Great. So just from some of the things I want to highlight, CDance 2.5 doesn't come in 1080p yet. So if you need 4K, it's still 2.0 for you. Of course, the CDance 2.5 has this massive upgrade in references. So if you're doing anything, complex with many characters, CDance 2.5 is your go-to model. This one, shots per generation, is great. So you can get up to 6 shots on CDance 2.5 and 2.0, and also on 1.3, whereas Minimax has 1 shot per generation. But one thing I wanted to note is you can see here down in how many credits it takes to create, for example, a 10-second clip. And you can see, for example, Minimax is a lot cheaper than CDance, and the same for 1.3, right? So whenever you're working on a film project and you have, let's say, a pool of credits, you might be tempted to go for, let's say, just a high quality CDance 2.5 for every shot. But often you might have a lot of shots where there may be like no characters. You don't maybe need exactly what CDance 2.5 is good at, and then you can save a lot of credits if you're going with a different model that can deliver equally strong result of, let's say, a landscape shot, or something where the character is not in front of the camera. So definitely check out Minimax H3, 1.3, really strong alternative models, and also Flux 3 is really an interesting new contender here. Great. And then we have also related to video. Again, this probably mostly for the pros. We have this feature where you can upscale not only number of pixels, but also go from 8-bit to 10-bit using, behind the scene, we're using Topaz, who created this amazing model that can convert video. So, and you'll find this one in the video upscaler. And let me just show you an example here. So we have this example where the video. So when we're sending this, webinar, it's not like you're getting an HDR signal in your end. Normally, you need like a screen that can actually show HDR. But the point is basically that we try to illustrate here is that if you're working, for example, with color grading and you're working with HDR, you will basically have a wider range of colors that you can work with. So there are some benefits to that, especially when you're working on some more professional filmmaking. Great, and this one, moving on to, so now we're done with sort of like the video updates. This one is really interesting, a very powerful feature. It goes, basically, I would say like it goes hand in hand with new video models. The whole concept is that you basically create it can be like a low poly 3D animation, and then you take that animation and you move it into a video generator, and then you make the video generator create that very complex and realistic looking video. So it's like a step where you can animate in a 3D space. You can control the camera, you can control the movements, and then you finally take that video and put that into, for example, CDAS 2.5. And let me just show you here an example of how that looks. So here we have a video. There is a, just there's basically like no world. It's just a gray grid, but it's enough for us to be able to detect how is the camera moving. And then there's a Formula 1 car, and we want that camera to move around the car in a specific way. So let me just play that video. So you can see here the camera is moving in front of the car. It's actually doing a little bit like a Yankee movement. So it's not very perfect, but you can actually see here when it's converted then using CDANs, it's actually also, it kept that, just odd movement that we included from the 3D. So you actually have, you can see here, I think around this point here, it does like a little change in direction.
It's pretty cool to be able to like control the movement, like to the detail, the camera movement to the detail. Like I've been obsessed testing around like how you can even use also prompting to generate like the camera movements and everything that you want to do around the whole thing.
Yeah. And it's very, very precise. And one thing that is also great at here is that if you have any kind of, let's say, complex characters that, have specific, let's say a backpack or whatever, and you have that kind of like 3D model, you can also really help the video model figure out like how does that character look from all different angles. I'm just going to show you real quick how that works, and also show you a really nice trick to making the movement. I'm just going to change my screen here. Let me just switch to the app. Right, so the place to find the 3D motion is under 3D, and then 3D scenes. And now here I already have a few 3D scenes, so I'm just going to open that. What you can do is that you can build a new 3D scene from an image or video or prompt, and then you can start using that. So what I did was I took one of the characters from our promotional video, and then this little green guy, and then put him in this virtual scene. So I'm just going to open the virtual scene. So what you see here now is that there is a path here of the camera that goes around in a circle that I already made with these keyframes. So we can decide like where does the camera move, and then when I hit play, I can then see the camera move here. And then if I want to see the movement from the camera's angle, I also have this preview up here, and then I can see just like the camera move around my character. And when I'm happy about the movement, I can then hit use video and then export it as a video. And let me show you a really nice feature here where I'm going to use my phone. So let's say you want to create a very specific movement with the camera. You can actually take your phone and let's say I'm gonna scan this QR code. Now it's gonna open the app on my phone, and from here I can now use.
Guys, don't try scanning Martin's QR code, because then it's gonna be like 75 million movements happening in the 3D space.
I closed it now, but now I'm now moving my phone, so it's using the accelerometer meter here in the phone so I can, let's say I wanted to create like some kind of movement here. I can move the camera forward and backwards, up and down, and turn it around and so on. So I use my phone. Let's say I wanted to have some kind of very specific shot. I can use my phone for that, and then just hit record. I'm just gonna hit record on this one. Let's do like there we go.
Oh, some comments are coming in about having maybe flows about this. So yeah, I'm guessing yes. But remember, custom flows are custom as well. So like, go for it. Like if you create it, do share it with us, and we'll be happy to have it in our radar as well. But yeah, the sky's the limit. It flows.
The camera movement from my phone, it's now recorded here on the shots, and then shot 2, and then it took, those camera movements from my phone and recorded that. So that's a nice option. Let me show you how then, whenever you have exported this, I'll just go out here and you can see an example because I prepared this one here. So here, this is one of the videos where I just had the camera rotate around the guy and I exported this. So this is a video, but this is not something we're ever gonna, use or share. This video, on the other hand, is basically the result. I'll just recreate here. You can see what prompt I used. So what I'm doing here is I'm choosing, in this case, C times 2.5. I'm then using the 3D motion, which is the video from the 3D tool. And then I'm taking my high resolution reference image. Then I'm going to use as sort of like, to indicate how that character looks. And then I just put in the prompt here. I can roughly describe, what the camera does. For example, here in this case, pan the camera around the green character. That's it. And then the outcome is basically, you can see here, the 3D motion is like this. So it goes on to the right around the character. And then the output is then basically this. So
really, really nice. I think we've hit the mark of the 45 minutes of the webinar we promised. So like, I think we should be wrapping up, but I guess that people can see how many cool things we've shipped in the past. So like, we could be doing like a 6-hour hackathon webinar of like all the Freepik Magnific updates. Sorry guys, it happened. Now we're doing shots every time we mention Freepik. And we're seeing a lot of questions about 3D objects, and like, feel free to shoot them our way. Like, anything you can imagine related to the 3D tool, you can do. You can generate the objects, you can import your own objects, you can select from the right library of existing 3D objects. So there's pretty much anything you can do there in the 3D tool.
And we also have now support for all the different 3D options you have in Spaces. So you can import 3D models, you can then turn them around in Spaces and create reference images and so on. So you now have everything in there. It's great. And let's see. A few more updates. These are not something we're gonna dive into on this webinar, but we have a long range of new integrations. So you can also access Magnific from Comfy UI. There are some nodes that will help you, for example, let's say run our image upscaler and so on. Many different options where you can run basically like the cloud-based models, but from Comfy. And then you can also run from Figma. We have basically like, I think almost the full Adobe suite, DaVinci Resolve, InDesign and so on. So go to magnific.com/plugins and you can find the full list of all the integrations.
Really cool. Our plugins keep on growing, so that's really nice. And we still have more things, but we have to be quick, Martin. People are already going to be like,
This is the short one, quick one. So one thing is if you're working on large projects, this is can be a really pain. How do you set the status? Let's say you're creating multiple videos and you have maybe different people working on generations and so on. How do you know what's good and bad, like what's rejected and so on? we now have this new drop down, which we just call status. So status can be, by default, it just says no status. So you don't have to use it. But you can say needs a review, in progress, approved or rejected. Very simple, but very powerful and an excellent little UI feature for teamwork. It also works with filtering, so you can go in when you have generated a whole bunch of videos and you have somebody approve it. You can then go in and filter and say, show me all the approved videos only. So that works really nicely. Yeah, let's jump to any questions we have.
Yeah, I think we went through the vast majority. We have, can we use 2 accounts on the desktop app? So as of now, I'd say no.
Sorry.
You'll have to like switch and get maybe be changing. And if I don't have a 3D object, can I create it with Magnific?
Yes. Yes, you can. So one thing that is really nice in our 3D feature is that we have integrated with a service called, my favorite is called Tripo. I think we have 2 different models that can generate 3D. So you can actually give it a picture or multiple pictures. So you can create, let's say, a character with the image generator from the front, from the left side, back, and so on. And then you give Tripo these reference images, and then it will create a 3D model. If it's a character, you can actually get it rigged also, meaning that if you're using Blender or any animation software, you can actually get a model out where you can move the arms and legs and everything. So that is a really powerful feature.
Really, really cool. Yeah, I'm super excited. Like just going through the whole thing of everything that we've been building. It's really nice when you kind of stop and see like everything that the team has been working on. So I'm hoping that everybody who went through this webinar was also as excited and looking forward to like dive into everything. I saw a bunch of comments of people who were already testing the desktop app. So like that's great news. Remember to send us your feedback. And I think we're done for the day. That you can see, guys, I'm closing the office here in Malaga. So like I better be going now. So thank you, Martin. Thank you, Ichi, who is also running the whole thing. And thank you, everybody. See you in the next webinar. See you around.